We stopped with chapter 7-12. And I want to talk to you about emission types. No, I'm sorry, not 12. 8. What are your responsibilities as an amateur radio operator when you're operating?
What page are you on, Bob?
7-8.
Oh, okay. That's where I was. Okay.
All right. Can I get this sign out of the middle of everything so I can see people when I'm talking to them? What are your responsibilities as a licensee to have your license in good effect?
Well, they have to have your current email, which I thought was interesting.
Yes, and your regular snail mail address too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. So, yeah, there are people still that don't have computers, so it's interesting that they require an email.
Yeah, well, if they can't get in touch with you one way, they'll try another. But if they can't get in touch with you at all, they can suspend or revoke your license. They don't want to. They haven't got enough people on the payroll to contact every ham every month or every year. But they have to have you on there, and if you move, change your name, even just change your mailbox, you have to keep in touch with them, and that's fill out another 605, which is the form, and you can see it on 7-7 to update. They will if they can't find you, they'll cancel your license. They've got to have the station and always be available. And this is because sometimes people will find an inactive ham call sign and start using it in illegal ways. And this is not cool. So they want to cancel your license, but at the same time, they want to make sure it's you that's using it.
Bob, I'm just going to jump in here, not to get into politics or anything else, but it seems like a very good policy that they do that with authenticating people.
Yeah, it is. It didn't used to be a question on the test, but people getting doing things they're not supposed to do more often now than they used to, and I think we've all seen that happening. They don't want the ham radio to become one of those things where people are corrupting it.
Well, can people steal your call sign like they steal your social security number?
Yes. If they hear you're on the air.
Good question.
Yeah. If they know you're on the air and hear it, they can use it. But this is one of the reasons it's a good idea to keep a log, because if somebody uses your call sign illegally, then you've got something to show. Well, I wasn't on the air at that time.
Oh, so you're saying every time we go on the air, we should keep track of what time and who we spoke to, etc.
Most people don't, but at the same time, it's a good idea. I remember one time when the police got in touch with a ham that I was familiar with. I didn't know him well, but I was familiar. And they wanted to know, have a look at his log because he had been in contact with somebody and his log was the only thing that had proof that the guy was on the radio instead of doing whatever it was illegal. And so that constituted his alibi because he was on the air talking to this fellow that I was telling you about, and somebody else was doing something. They thought it was him, and he wasn't. We talk about bans and privileges. There are a lot of different organizations and groups and so forth that are using the ham bans. I'm talking about the military and airlines, shipping, and all sorts of things. And so there are some areas of the bans that have two different groups assigned to it. The only one I know around here is I know the Coast Guard is on 2 meters. And if you go on 2 meters and give your call sign, they'll know it's not the Coast Guard. But I've run into the Coast Guard guys talking to each other about Coast Guard stuff. And if we needed to have our 2 meters taken away from us because there was a large scale emergency or something like that, and I don't have any problem with that, unless I'm involved in it, I would be off the air for that. But they want to be able to take away the privileges on a temporary basis. So everybody has a primary or a secondary assignment. With the military, I think everybody is secondary to the military. They can go on just about anywhere they want. But sometimes you'll hear there's been a earthquake or hurricane or something in El Salvador, and stay off of these particular frequencies. That's because El Salvador is using that for their emergency stuff. And although those frequencies are open to you most of the time, we are asked to give it up for those kind of emergencies. And I don't see any problem with that. Also know that there are some frequencies that are given to everybody that technicians don't have a whole lot on. And I'm down at the bottom of page 7-9. These are the particular frequencies that, excuse me, that technicians are allowed. Generals, extras, people like that have more frequencies, and the space they're allowed to have is a lot bigger. That's because technician is used and thought of as a temporary or beginner's license. If you want to have more privileges, you get your new license. Now, one of the things that you ought to do when you set up your station, everybody see this? Okay, this came from the ARRL. They, on their website, you can copy this off if you want. But when you say, okay, I have privileges, for example, on 144 to 148. Well, does everybody have that, or is something? Is that
Yeah, you gave us that. Yes.
This is because they want you to stay within these certain frequencies, and you will not get yourself in trouble. One of the reasons that people get in trouble is outside of the frequency area. One of the big problems with people doing single sideband, that's where you're only sending half of the frequency that you're assigned to. And because you're giving out less, the power behind that signal is greater. So let's say you go right to the very end of the allotted frequency and you go on single sideband. Well, that's going to be either above or below what is indicated on your radio. And if you go to the very end, either at the top or the bottom of the band, you're going to be outside of the band. If you go single sideband, you'll be above the thing or below. It doesn't matter which. You're taking somebody else's space and you didn't do that. Some of the magazines publish what problems occur, and for technicians, a lot of times I'll have people are outside of their band. They've gone on to some frequency. Maybe somebody told them they could do it, and there's doing FT8, which technicians do not have privileges on to do FT8. That's a mode, and you don't have it. You can go by voice. You can go by CW. You can go some digital, but not a lot. You want to be sure that you're not using a band that you're not entitled to be on, or that you're not using it for things you're not supposed to be doing. They will let you know. Sometimes it's just a warning, and there are people who have gone to jail.
A quick question on table 7.2, when we're talking about the VHF and the UHF, what is the difference between a VHF and the UHF?
VHF is very high frequency.
Oh, okay.
U is ultra high frequency. There's no line anywhere where it says, well, you can't go above this or that. But those UHF and VHF are usually handled together. And you'll notice that most of your technician privileges are in those bands.
Okay, for the like of me, it was questions were asking that, and I was trying to figure what that was. Okay, thank you.
No problem. No problem at all. Now, technician high frequency privileges are outlined on 711 at the top of the page. 80-meter band. If you look at the normal allocation for generals and technicians, generals and extras, you'll find they're much larger. This is to give you experience using the high frequency bands, and you'll notice almost all of them are CW only. So if you did voice, the only place I see you can do voice is 28,300 to 28,500. You can do voice on that. You can
So
go on.
CW means voice only, is what you're saying?
CW is Morse code.
Oh, thank you. That question, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can use it, but they don't want to get you on there and get hooked on the idea of talking on single sideband or something like that in an area where you're not really, shall I say, welcome. You can use the modes on any of this. Data, of course, is RTTY is digital codes, and data is digital. So you get a little place to practice on digital, but by getting your general license, you get a whole lot more. And this is kind of encouraging you. Let me say that, encouraging you to get on the study and get your general license. Now, I've talked to you about going from this class directly into the general, because that's going to give you a lot more area to work with. You'll learn a lot more and be a better operator if you get into general as soon as you can and use it. But I understand some people don't want to do that. Now, emission privileges. If you set up a beacon, and I think you have to be a general to set up a beacon, but there are beacons all over the world. And what you do use that for is you'll tune into an area that has a beacon, and you will hear the beacon. It's just going beep, beep, beep. There's not any intelligence coming over. It's just, you know, that you can listen to it. But that tells you that your signal will go there or pass there. So if you wanted to call Japan, for example, and you got a signal, a beacon that was near wherever you wanted to talk to in Japan, and you hear that beep, 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 you'll know that you'll go in. Your signal will go in. If you don't hear it, some kind of atmospheric conditions are occurring and you can't go in. Don't try. I know there are reasons Brenda would want to call Japan on a regular basis, but if you don't hear the beacon, then you can't do it. And he'll just have to understand. Now, here are the different kinds of emissions. 7-12, CW, Morse code, data, that's digital mode. Images, yes, you can do television. You have fast scan and slow scan. You can do that. And this is with your technician license. Morse code it comes through not as the regular Morse code does, but it comes through as a tone change in certain areas, and that's MCW. Phone, that's when you're talking to somebody on the telephone or on your microphone or whatever. Pulse, there are pulses that you can use, which are get your digital material through. RTTY, that's very much like a typewriter. When you key down different letters, they'll go over the air to wherever you're sending them. Spread spectrum, signal is spread out over a wide band of frequencies. And test, that's transmission that is not carrying information. In other words, if I want to see if John can hear me, I will send him a test message. It will be just a sound. It will not be any information, but he'll say, okay, I can hear you, or otherwise. So anyway, we've got that under power limits. The average amateur radio operator can use 1,500 watts. That's about 15 light bulbs, as far as you concern when you talk about that. You usually have to have a linear amplifier to get a signal like that out, but it's legal for you to do it. Although in some areas of the band, technicians a few specific restrictions see the privilege chart, amateurs are allowed the full legal limit of 1,500 watts peak envelope power. When you hit the button, you're going out with 1,500 watts. Most radios that you buy without a special amplifier will go out with 100. And novice and technician licenses are limited to 200 watts peak envelope power on a high frequency bands. Now, on the UHF, VHF, they can go out with whatever the radio will do. But if you want to go out on the high frequency, a technician needs to use 200 watts as maximum power. Okay, we got secondary allocations. I think I covered that. Repeater coordination. You all know what repeaters are. We've heard, if you've been in my shack, we've probably tuned in so you can hear what the repeaters are like. If you wanted to put up your own repeater, and I believe you have to have a general license for it, but if you want to put up your own, for whatever reason, you need to have a repeater coordinator committee. Look at your at the idea. Where are you going to put it? Is it going to interfere with another repeater or something else? Are we going to have a problem with you asking for a frequency that somebody else has got? And there's going to be a problem with the two signals getting together. These coordinating committees are not made up of the FCC. They're made up from hams. You can, in time, become one of those people on that committee. And you don't tell a person if they can or if they can't have a repeater, but you do tell them what frequency it'll be on and can they locate it where they want to. A lot of people have their own private repeaters and it's real simple. Somebody wants to call them, you just call that repeater and it goes right into their house. Sometimes the repeaters are owned by clubs and they'll pick it up and they'll repeat the whatever you're sending in, it'll go out and it covers usually a bigger area and that may be more than you have more power than you have license for. That doesn't matter. If you can get onto the repeater, you can use it. And just don't go into it with more than the radio. You don't want to have an amplifier on that. The coordinated repeater has the right of way over any other repeater. If you put one up on your own, you haven't broken the law. But if it interferes with anybody, it could. And so the coordinated repeater is always more preferable. There is an Oregon repeater coordinating committee, and every state has one. And you'll say, I want to have a repeater, or can I have the coordinates of the repeaters? You go to the internet and you write ham radio repeaters, and they will give you a printout on every repeater in this state. If you travel into other states, all you have to do is go over and check that out. But the list of frequency and everything, those that are set up by the coordinating committee.
Bob, when you lean over like that, it muffles everything.
Okay, did you hear me say that you can become part of a repeater coordinating committee and that you can put up a repeater without any permission, but you might be asked to change it?
No,
If you put up your own thing, and they come along later and say, well, you're on another repeater's frequency, or you're too close to another repeater, they can ask you to take it down. Okay. Now, international rules. If you operating your repeater at sea on a boat or anywhere in the United States, the rules are all going to be the same, no problem. You can't say, well, the rules in Tennessee are different than the ones in Oregon. The rules are all the same. And when we get into the studying for our general license, I will keep you abreast of what violations are being reported, so you'll have a chance to understand what that is. But there are so few that actually apply to technicians who are operating on their frequencies and at their power levels that we don't really need it now. But on 714, you'll see a map of the world, and it's broken into 3 different places. You see area 1 is Europe and Africa and all of what used to be the Soviet Union. You look on area 2, the region 2, it's North and South America, including Alaska. In the third is everything south of the Himalaya Mountains, Australia, over to New Zealand and the islands of the Pacific. There's no place that's outside. Those have different regulations. I remember a couple of years ago, the people in Japan got 80 meters. They never had it before. And for reasons that I don't know or don't care, their government said, okay, you can use 80 meters now. And they joined us there. We've been using it since 1912, but they haven't. The rules are not the same in each of those 3 different areas. Sometimes you get funny things happen. They had a big conference, which they have every, I think it's 10 years. And the people in Africa, there had been a whole bunch of new countries coming to being. And they were very, very adamant about wanting to have right to forbid other countries from transmitting into their country. They wanted that to be against the law. And I said, well, how are we going to enforce that? You cannot stop a radio signal from going across the border. It can't be done. Oh, no, we got to have that. Next session, 10 years later, they said, how's that going with forbidding somebody to transmit into your country? We can't stop them. When we have a political upheaval, the bad guys all run across the country and set up radio stations and transmit into us. If you're familiar with the geography and a lot of Black Africa, the countries are very small. And so you don't have to go very far to be out of the country, set up a radio station and transmit back into it. And that's the primary methods of resisting political people who are passing rules you don't like. But you still cannot stop a radio station from transmitting across the border. It's impossible to do. So anyway, that law has gone by the board, but they wanted it and we gave it to them, and it doesn't matter. If you're going to go across an international boundary and you want to use your privileges, for example, you go to here to Canada or Mexico or someplace like that, you will need to have an idea of what the rules are in that country. And you'll, they can, their version of the FCC can come down on you and in some cases confiscate your radio. But usually if you go out of the country, then I would, for example, if I went to Canada, I would have a, give my call sign 87IL / and then whichever Canadian district I was in, I would give that. You want to do that to avoid heart attack. If I were to go on 2 meters from my son's house, which is in North Carolina, and gave my call sign as 87IL, half of North Carolina would have heart attacks. And the 2-meter rig is reached from Oregon to there. So I always put 87IL /4 because that's the area that North Carolina is in. And they would realize that I am in Oregon when I'm transmitting. If you turn on the page 7, you'll see when you get your license, you will have a 7 in it. If you have an American license, it will have a 7 in it if you live in Oregon. If you go outside of this region, let's say you went to Chicago on business, and while you were there, you took your technician test, then they would give you a 7 because of your address, not where you took the test. And so that's important to do. You'll see some people who have numbers other than 7 in local clubs and things like that. For example, if I'd gotten my license in California and I moved up to Oregon, like people with good sense do, I would have a whatever my call sign would be, would have a 6 in it, unless I asked for a new call sign. You can change your call sign anytime you want to. You can ask for a specific call sign. Sometimes people have a reason they want to have, when maybe their dad or their mother was a ham, and dad and mom are gone now, but I want to have their call sign, so I'll ask for that. And the FCC is very amenable to giving you that, as long as it hasn't been reassigned to somebody else. I had a fellow who went through a class about a year before you guys started, and he's had 3 call signs since he's had his license. And he can change it anytime he wants to. He just has to say, I want to have this for my call sign, or give me another one altogether. I don't care. And you can do that. All your friends who are looking at 87IL as my last name will need to be notified. But that's something that you can do. But in the regions, you'll see where they are, and if you want to have a 1 or a 3 or a 9 or whatever, you'll have to ask them to, the FCC, to do that. And calling your attention to the 10th district, which is North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, and Missouri. If you write that down, some people might think that's a 0, or some people might think it's an O. If it's a 0, put a slash through it. Just and that will tell people that it's a 0, not an O. You'll see up here on the top of 717 that there are technician call signs, there are general call signs, there are extra call signs, and you can tell a person's license by their call sign, unless they've upgraded and didn't tell you. When I got my first call sign, it was Kilo Delta 7 Kilo Tango Sierra. And when I got my general, I did not change it. You don't have to change it. And when I got my extra, that was a little different, and I did get mine changed. But if you hear somebody, you can tell what their call sign was or is. You can tell what their license is, unless they've upgraded since then. A lot of people don't change their call signs, and they're sitting there with a technician call sign, and they're actually an extra. You can do that if you want to. Now, any questions on this that I have given you? This seems to be
Me. My call sign is KB6YGZ. My husband's was N6QBE. Are you saying that I could grandfather and have my husband's call signs if I wanted?
if you choose to, yes.
Well, he was an
No.
extra class though, so
Well, then they may have a problem with that, but you could have it until somebody else gets assigned it.
it hasn't been assigned because I've checked.
Okay. But yes, Cheryl, you could get that if you wanted it. I don't know if they'll give a extra class call sign to a technician, but you can ask.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't change it because I use my car license plate as my call sign.
That's another thing. If you have an amateur radio license and you want to do it, you can have your call sign be your license plate number. In this state, all you have to do is show them that you have in fact got that call sign, and they'll give it to you. It doesn't cost any extra. The benefits for that are if you're out driving around and somebody's having an emergency, you have a radio in your car and you want to go over and help out with the emergency, then the police will not stop you and say, oh, okay, you gotta leave this area because we've got it blocked off for emergency vehicles. I said, well, I am an emergency vehicle. See, I have my radio here and I'm ready to give service in that way. So you can do that. Anybody else have a question? Surely I didn't give a lecture that was perfectly clear. Did I tell you about the International Amateur Radio Union? It is an international group. It's part of the United Nations. And if you decided you wanted to go to Botswana or Germany or wherever, you can go to the International Amateur Radio Union, IARU. And on it, it has all of their members. Almost every country in the world is a member. So you go down to whichever country you're going to go to and ask them if they have what their regulations are. If I go to England today, I would just have to prove that I had a license, and they would give me whatever is equivalent to their license for that. If I went to Germany, I think everybody who goes to Germany has to take another test, but they don't have to do it in German. A lot of people who are in the military have German call signs because they went over there with a license and they had to, German made them do something, but they got a call sign. If I went to England, they might give me a British call sign. I'm not sure. But I know that you can do that. If you're going to go to a whole bunch of places, sometimes you make a list of where they are, and you can get a what are they called? Anyway, there are two amateur radio licenses that you can get, which you will get automatically for your for whatever license you have. Then as you go through the places you're going to be going, that will substitute for your license. I'm not sure exactly where it does it, but these things tend to change quite frequently. When I was first getting my license, you couldn't get a you couldn't get a temporary English license. You had to be in the country before they would do that. Now that's changed. Third-party traffic is one of the things. And we talked about third-party traffic where you may want to speak to somebody who lives in another country and their family would be in your Radio Shack. That's third-party traffic. And some countries allow it and some don't. So you have to check with the IARU to find out. These things change all the time. So that's about what I have. Next week, we're going to go into chapter 8, which is operating regulations. And go about that. Yes, Brenda.
Always a question. Next week is Thanksgiving. Are we gonna be meeting next week or not?
I'm gonna let you guys decide that. Next time we meet, we'll be doing 8, but I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, Thanksgiving's not till Thursday, so I have no problem with a Tuesday night. Does anybody else?
I'm leaving Wednesday, so it just depends on my week and schedule if I can make it or not. That's all.
Well, Tuesday, you'd still be around on Tuesday.
I will be around as long as I have everything together, 'cause I'm traveling, so I gotta make sure I have.
And you're not sure if you can get everything together, huh?
I think I'll be fine. I'm just checking in because I don't want to miss a class if there is one.
Yeah, how about you, John? Do you have a problem with,
No, I should be good.
okay. Well, with everybody's permission, we'll do it next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. I'll keep studying.
Always we keep studying.
Well, I'm trying to at least an hour a day work on those practice tests, so I'm just keep going over them.
Yeah. And you're in the 50s now?
58, so I'm making progress.
Okay, well, you're almost at 60. And if you get to 80, you're gonna pass no matter what.
Yeah, so I know I'm gonna go back to the beginning and start all over again and reread the book again and just, it's slowly but surely, some of the stuff is sinking in, so.
Yeah. Well, also, just taking those tests will help you with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Taking the test helps a lot. I was really surprised how much I'm learning just by taking the test. I've
Yeah.
actually gotten 2 25s correct and 1 24, and the rest I won't tell you. But I'm so close to passing.
Or whatever you
Yeah,
can
it's-
do. to get
Each time a
that,
little better, a little better.
Yeah, every time you can get a little better. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I want to do it now since we're talking about tests. If you do not pass your test when you take it originally, I have always recommended that you pay another $15 and take the whole thing again. A lot of people have flunked the first test by just a couple, and then they would take the test again. You got a whole new set of questions, and you can pass on that one. Most people will pass on the second one if they get a chance. And when you pass your test, you notice I'm using the word when, they will automatically give you a chance to take the next license up. Do it. That way you had a chance to see what the general test will be like. And maybe you don't get any questions right. That's okay. You haven't had the material. But you'll be a little better prepared when we do the test, when we study for it. How are your scores coming, John?
They're pretty good. I'm typically in the 60, 65 right now range.
Good
Okay.
job.
Well, if you keep
No, I've
working,
always been really good at tests like this, even if I don't necessarily know the information that well. I don't know what it is, but I see that and I can look at it, and even when I don't know a question, I can get it down to one or two, then it's a 50-50 shot. And
well, once you pass the test, John, you don't ever have to take the technician class again. As long as you keep renewing your license, you don't have to take the test again. Uh-oh, Brenda's back. That's true. At the end of your license, we're going to cover this next week, I think. If you let your license expire after 10 years and don't do anything at all, you still got 2 years to renew your license. You should not use your license during that 2-year period, but you have that to send in the paperwork for another one. And one of the reasons that I always,
A grace period. Grace
Yes.
period.
yes, one of the reasons I always renew my license through the ARRL, which will do it for you if you're a member. I tried to deal with the FCC one time. I said, please send me the form to renew my license. I'm an amateur radio operator. So they sent me $9 worth of postage with every license renewal application you could think of. It was like that thick. And then when I sent it in, they lost it.
Oh, no.
So what I do, and as a life member, I can do this, or if you have a magazine, you're still a member of the organization, you can call them up and say, listen, my license coming due, mine comes due in October. You say, well, I need to have my license renewed before, and give them the last date. They'll do it for you. There'll be no charge. If you're not a member, they charge you about $12. Mr. Gregg, you're looking very wise there. You have all the questions answered? I can't hear you.
The last one I took just the other day was a 93.
Of
There you
course.
go. This kid's gonna get his general.
Yeah.
All right, that's everything I've got for you, unless you have questions.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I'll keep studying
you.
and see you all next week then.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Well,
righty.
I'm not sure that I will. Depends on how my surgery goes.
Good luck with your surgery and everybody have a good week. Thanks, Bob.
You
Yes.
bet. Shirley, have
Thank
you
you,
had a
Bob.
blessing